Welcome back to the Lion's Den and another episode in our Blue Collar Ballers series. Today we speak with Nikki Hage, the president of Hage Fence and Repair. Now, as we go through more of these Blue Collar Baller episodes, it's interesting to me how many different backgrounds people can come through before starting a construction trade firm. And so for Nikki, as you'll hear in this episode, she had a career in sales and marketing, and she took that and took a leap of faith, honestly, with her husband in starting this fence installation business. And she's leveraged her sales and marketing history and experience and expertise in order to grow Hage Fence and Repair. And so this is a really cool conversation. Nikki will talk a lot about sales and marketing and how it pertains to starting and growing a fence company. And I think you'll find some tidbits in there. Specifically, Nikki is a huge proponent of networking and networking groups and communities and that sort of thing, leveraging those to grow your business. This is a great episode. Check it out. So Nikki, would you maybe give me a little bit of like background into, before you actually started your business, which is, am I saying Hage Fence and Repair? Saying that right?
That's it. Yep.
Cool. So before you started that, what were you doing?
I was in marketing sales for a large, massive corporation. So I was in corporate America, as you will. Yeah. And my husband was a press supervisor. So overseeing, big printing presses.
And was that the same company or those are two different companies?
Nope. Totally different companies.
Okay.
Never worked together. Never. Two totally different worlds.
And then for some reason you said, hey, we should work together and it should be in this other industry that neither of us are involved in at this moment.
Exactly right. Yeah. It was one of those things that kind of fell from the sky. We said, well, his friend knows how to install fence and he got laid off from his job. Printing is not a very lucrative business anymore. Yeah. Everything's going digital. And then literally 2 weeks later, I also got laid off from my job and went, oh no, well, now we should probably worry and do something.
When was this?
This was 8 years ago. About 7.5 years ago, I guess. 8 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotcha. And so then you said, okay, so then you were just basically both laid off and you're like, we have to do something. And he had a friend and the friend knew how to install fences. And you guys said, let's combine our powers, basically.
He was kind of already helping him out, doing some repairs and stuff, doing it on the side for a few weeks. And I went, well, hey, how much do you like doing that actually? Because there's a huge void in the market. I can see we're surrounded by amazing fence companies that do a great job. They really know what they're doing, but they don't want to do repairs. There's a lot of them that are like, no, we just rather not go near it. So I said, how much do you like repairing these fences? And he did a great job and he was very professional and he learned from a professional and, not cutting corners and things of that nature. And we just accidentally turned it into this monstrous fence company now. That it kind of seems like it happened overnight, but it was a lot of sleepless nights, if you will. But yeah, it was completely by accident, if I'm being honest.
So in the early days, when you first started this thing out and you were coming from a marketing background, what did you take on in those early days? It sounds like maybe your husband was in the field actually doing the construction work with his friend. What were you doing at that time?
Sales and marketing. Sales and marketing. Just straight out the door. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get our name out there. We're going to hyper focus on high quality work. It wasn't about making money in the beginning. It was really about getting a good name, branding ourselves in a very positive way that we were going to follow for the rest of our career, really. So that's what we did. I came out with a strong quality brand.
Awesome. And so what is that like, setting up like a quality brand, especially from the onset before you have really a lot of reach or a lot of clients? Like, what do you focus on in those early days?
So many things, right? So many things. You're really touching and doing a lot of things, but I've been a BNI member. So I don't know if you're familiar with BNI. It's a very large networking group. And this networking group that I'm in is absolutely amazing, supportive. And I just said, I know my unicorns. I know who I need to line up with to prove myself. And I'm out here working for 5-star reviews and to get a name out there. And that's really, really what we did. And BNI has been amazing. I also did a lot of community events. We focus on, animals, dogs, of course. So, fencing is really good for dogs and pools. Yeah. So And we went out and we volunteered and we did free repairs. And we still do to this day, free repairs for dogs if they're escaping. We understand that it's a budgeted item. So yeah, just doing the right thing all the time. And just the more things that we do correct and nice and high quality, the luckier we seem to get, if you will.
Yeah, the universe rewarding you. That makes sense. What about, so now you guys are obviously much bigger than you were back then. Do you find that you're sort of sticking to the same sorts of marketing things you did in the early days, or has that evolved over time as well?
It's definitely, yeah, we've grown so much bigger than that now. So we've expanded into new territories. And now I have my salespeople in BNIs as well, local, highly concentrated local BNIs. And yeah, so again, I guess we've just moved into the new territory. So South Hillsborough, we pushed into Sarasota more, where the need is greater and they don't have, as many great companies there to showcase to. So the competition just isn't as high. And really it's just because I'm here to fill voids. My number one focus is where is there a void, but there's a lot of business in need and that's what we're going to move to. And that's what we've done. We just fill the void.
Yeah. A lot of fence companies are doing, Google ads, Facebook ads. Do you guys dabble in that too? Or you really focus on the network-based marketing through BNI?
So majority of my marketing is going to be networking for sure. And then I've also aligned myself with some amazing house builders. Okay. These are very high-end luxury home builders. And we've been a great asset for them too. So it's a win-win situation for both sides because we understand the process that they have to go through and how important it is that they get it done fast and quick to follow their COs and things of that nature. I've also pushed into the commercial space now a whole lot more. Google ads, we turn them on when we need them the most. So Google is amazing when it comes to, hey, we don't have enough business coming in from South Tampa, but we know there's a growing community and there's a lot of things going on. You can turn it on in a flash. And then when you're way too busy and we're booked out, 3 and 4 months, you can shut it off. So I love Google ads, using them for that reason. And they're still very lucrative. They're still very good. You can still get some really good conversions on that. But I always get asked the same question. I'm like, yes, I believe in ROI, but I very much believe in ROR. My return on relationships is huge. So
yeah, no, I love that. And I mean, that is, it's also a cheaper method of marketing. If you think, you're not,
I don't know about that at all. I would argue that because it takes a lot of my time and time is valuable. You cannot buy your time back, but the one thing I hear sometimes about just BNI specifically. So I belong to chambers and things like that too, but it is a time commitment. You are very much committed to it. And in the very beginning stages, for some people, they just don't see it. But giver's gain is the number one concept behind it. And the more time I put in it, the bigger and better it turns out for me. So I'm a firm believer. And yes, I know I spend a lot of time in it, but it's been completely worth it. I go there not to, I want to sell your neighbor their fence, of course. I want to do you and your fence, your friend's fence, your cousin's fence, and anybody else you give me. But I really want you to introduce me to the person who built your house so I can do his 50 brand new houses that are coming up this year. And that's what BNI does for me, right? I go in there looking for unicorns and I meet them every single day. I meet my top people who are going to feed me the most. And I also meet the other people in trades that make me look really good to my builders. I go, oh, you're having a hard time with your electrician? I've got a guy that does all my electrician for my motors, for my gates, my automation. He's amazing. He shows up on time and let me just help you out. And that is also amazing because now I'm helping the owner and I'm helping, my people inside of the BNI. That's enough of BNI. There's other things that work too. Like Google My Business is something you should do right away. And even if you claim your Google My Business, work really, really hard on your reviews and start there. That is a great starting point for brand new companies because otherwise you're going to drink from a fire hose if you try to turn too much on at once. But that one is it still works amazing. It works great. So. Okay.
Are you, so now so now your business is a lot bigger, and are you still entirely focused on sales and marketing, or has your role evolved beyond that as well over time?
So you're catching us. We just celebrated. So we started in April 2018. So we just celebrated our 7 years.
Yeah.
And I am still the bottleneck. So now we're growing as of right now, and we're hiring on more management.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Okay. And you're the bottleneck on the sales side of things?
Everything coming in and out. Yeah.
Oh, it's all going through you still as the
Yeah.
owner.
So
Okay.
the hat, yeah, we're all the hats except for operations. That would be my husband, Daryl. He takes care of
Okay.
the guys, and that kind of, at least that side of everything. So
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit because you just mentioned your husband. So I think there are a lot of husband-wife teams out there. Um, what has that been like for you guys? Have you run into challenges? Has it been amazing for you? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I'll be very candid with you, Nico, because I know a lot of people are listening. That in the very beginning, it was really, really hard, really hard. So anybody who's been in sales or exposed to sales, and anybody who's been in operations or exposed to operations, know that the two do not mix, right? So
Yeah.
if there's ever a problem in operations, 100% they're gonna blame sales. And if there's ever a problem with sales, they're 100% gonna blame operations. So us dividing those lanes helped a lot. We said, okay, do not come into my lane. This is mine to take care of. I own it. I'm responsible. I'll be accountable for it. But you have to be accountable for your lane at all times. And in the beginning, that was really hard. But now we've progressed and we've gotten
Yeah.
really, really good at staying in each other's lanes. So that has helped us a lot. So if I can give any advice to any listeners, it's find your lane and do not deviate. Just stick to the process and stay there. Otherwise, you're going to be at each other's throats. I mean, I have ideas all day long, right? I'm like, oh, why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? And, oh, we should add this product. And he's like, so you have to like really find the fine line. You go, okay, it's not my place. Let's stick to the program. So.
I completely agree with that. That is my number one advice because my company, by the way, my wife works at our company as well. And I have a brother and a sister who both work for our consulting firm. And so that was our big learning as well, was make sure there's defined lanes. Everybody has their spot. Because that way if you can't have family members reporting to other family members because that dynamic never works. Because in the real world, you don't report to each other. You're all equals. And then you go into business and now suddenly I'm your boss. It's not going to fly. So I love that.
Yeah.
Love that advice.
My dad still answers. My dad's 72 and answers my phones, and he is very much our boss. So we pulled him out of retirement because we just got too busy to answer the phones anymore. And my oldest daughter graduated college, so she couldn't answer the phones anymore. She took on a job. Making a lot more than we could ever pay her. So we went, oh man. And he said, I'll do it for a couple of days. And now he owns it. He loves it. And everybody's like, oh, I really love your boss. I'm like, me too. We do too. And then I'm blessed enough to have my sister, who's also my best friend, who runs my office. And she is way organized and I am way chaotic. So it works out really well. So we know we're very blessed, but we still respect that. All the guys are like, oh, that's Jack. Oh, Jack called. Okay. So we all know.
How do you manage in your personal life? You're out to dinner, you're hanging out at night, about to watch TV or whatever you're doing. How do you manage the urge to always talk about business because it's on your mind and to bring up, hey, what about that crazy customer earlier today? That was insane, right? Or what about this employee who's like not carrying their weight? Like, what should we do about that? Do you try to separate things? Do you just let business flow into personal life and just that's the way it is? Like, how do you approach that?
My daughters did this a long time ago. So now they're 25 and 21, but 8 years ago, they were younger and they had it. We were at dinner, we'd be making dinner and we're constantly, let's talk about fence. So they coined the term, no more F word. You're not allowed to say the F word. When we go on vacations, we try to do, small little 3-day vacations. Cause as a business owner, it's really, really hard to leave. But so we've tried to create these small little tiny timeouts, if you will. But first things first is no F word. So that's been defined now in our life. And my husband and I, we have a lot of new restaurants popping up here in St. Petersburg. So that's been like a fun little thing that we do now. We try once a week, But right now we try at least twice a month as much as we can, just get to somewhere new. And we follow the same rules. No F word, just for this one night. But on a regular night basis, I'm still working. I'm still working all day, every day, all night still. I try really hard to clock out if I can, but the business comes first still, no matter what. And the kids understand that, and me and my husband understand that. And until we have more management, grow a little bit more, then we'll cross that bridge. But for right now, allocated time, no F word is where we're gonna sit comfortably.
I like it. All right. So you mentioned two different sort of like tactics to scaling, shifting gears a little bit here. You mentioned you've been going into commercial a little bit more. We'll talk about that in a second. But you also mentioned, it sounds like you guys have done a lot of just geographical expansion as a way of scaling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be like daunting for some people. What has worked really well for you? Is this a geographical expansion that is like still not really that far away, such that you still just have one office and you're sort of just driving out trucks from there? Or are you talking about like multi-location at this point?
No, we still have one office that's our hub. And so what we did was we did 60 minutes of windshield time in either direction, north or south. We're very blessed that St. Petersburg is centrally located pretty much. We can get to Sarasota and some of the far stretches within 1 hour. So that's how we dictate how far we'll go.
Okay. Do you think you're going to want to like expand geographically beyond that? Or do you think there's enough in your market with the 60 minutes of windshield time that you should be able to just stick there?
In my county alone, we have 990,000 residents. So there's definitely enough fence business here, to keep us incredibly busy. But we do have 7 crews, right now going. So we've talked about going into Sarasota a little bit harder. So I think we will expand into Sarasota with the satellite office. Probably within the next 2 years, I would say. Yeah. Sarasota is up and coming. They're growing like crazy. A lot of our builders are down there, kind of pulling us down there. There's a need, so yeah, we'll move down there, but we don't really want to go to Tampa. So I don't want to go to north, where we're going to focus on south. So the answer is yes. That's my long answer is yes.
Okay. When you're partnering with builders, because I know a lot of fence companies would love to get those sorts of relationships and those sorts of contracts going. What are those? Right? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So like, what are the cons? Obviously the pro is you get big sales with just, sort of, it's a one-to-many relationship, one relationship that leads to many jobs. What are the cons of working with builders? Yeah,
the pro is consistency, right? And then you always know what to expect, right? But the con is moving your schedule around. So, you have to move your schedule. Sometimes it's at the drop of a dime. You're going, oh, you need this tomorrow. How do we just now find out about this? And also prices, you have to lower your prices because you're guaranteed work. You're trying to meet budgets. So there's definitely pros and cons, and partnering up with the right one is really important. I've had some people complain because they don't get paid on time. So it's something you have to think about. Our first experience with them is how do you pay, how fast, and I'm not waiting, right? So you have to have those conversations ahead of time for sure. And then be careful what kind of contracts you're signing. Some of these people want you to sign contracts that, you really need to make sure you're reading through. So I've heard some stories, and we push back on all that because you do have a liability. So things to look out for if you decide to go that route.
Yeah. And I've heard the same sorts of warnings with other sorts of commercial fencing where, when you do your residential, it's really simple. For example, we bill half up front, we bill a quarter once we're, truck rolling out to the job. And then we do the final quarter once we're done, like whatever it is. But then with commercial, it's like, oh, our accounts receivable, we've got, this $50,000 commercial project that's just been sitting there for 3 months. They haven't paid us yet. We've done all the work. We ordered all the materials. So how has that been for you guys?
That's different than builders. That's commercial work. Now you're getting into commercial stuff. Again, you just have to set the boundaries correctly for your business. It took us about 5 years. So we're 7 years old. I would only take on 1 or 2 commercial jobs a year. I wouldn't take on too many because you know that you're going to get into that. Even though you set yourself up for net 30 from when? From when we start, from when we finish, so really paying attention to those things. And then some of them now hold a 10% retainer until the whole rest of the job is done. You go, how big is this job? It could be a whole year and you don't even know if you don't ask, right? So we've been into some of that stuff. And then really, really knowing what you can handle. You have to just say, don't expect this to come for 60 to 90 days. Can you hold that, make your payroll, make your supply, because supply payments are within 30 days, or if you're a cash payer, now you're paying for it before you even start the job. So that you really have to ask yourself that. But I always say, can I go 90 days on this one? Okay, I think we could stretch this one for 90 days and we do it. And we get paid in 30. Thank you. Thank you. It's a perfect thing. But yeah, you just had to be very careful with that stuff. And then some people do commercial only. So by the time it all starts rolling in, you've already caught up and you're ahead of it. So the margins are a little bit better. So if you wait on it, those kinds of things. So.
And so you said you're branching into that a little bit more. Is that because you've reached such a point with your residential volume that there's enough cash flow coming from that you can sustain the business as you wait for commercial payments? Is that the thinking?
Exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
cool.
Exactly right.
And then how do you go about trying to get more commercial relationships in order to get more of those projects?
Well, I give you a guess. I joined a networking group.
Makes sense.
I joined a networking group out of Tampa, and they're awesome and amazing, called ABC. They're builders, and it's the most amazing contractors in there. There's other trades like me, one of the largest fence companies here locally that just does commercial. I mean, they do it all over the nation, or in there, as a matter of fact. And they're awesome and amazing. So we learn as much as we can. Anything that's too big for us that comes down the pike, we just send over to them. And anything that's too small that they won't tackle, they send to us. So it's been a great, relationship that way. I meet all my builders there. Some things make sense and some things don't. You really have to learn what your bread and butter is and what you're really, really good at and what makes the best profit for your company, and focus on that. So that's what I did. And I go and I meet every single contractor. Anytime they do, a meeting, they do meet and greets, sometimes quarterly, sometimes every other month. But right now it's very, very booming business. So I've been doing one every 2 months, I guess. And I just meet them. I hear what their projects, the upcoming projects are. If it makes sense, I go, here I am. And if not, I go, here I'm not. So, and then, that's it. That's really where I've been doing it. It's been slow and steady. There's another network out there. I think it's Blue Book. They send us some stuff. Joining all of your government, OpenGov. That's a really good one that you should jump into. I jumped into all the school systems. We do a lot for repairs and stuff. And so 9 of our 17 guys have the level 2 badge, clearance. So we were proactive on that, so they can be on school grounds, those kinds of things. Like, you'll learn over time. But yeah, picking and choosing, I think, is the number one. Networking groups that are local, that other contractors. I do a lot for this commercial contractors happen to find me on Google. And I said, where do you normally find these people? And he kind of pointed me in that direction. So ask the questions, right? Just my whole entire career in fencing has been me asking everybody the questions. I ask all the time, wait, how'd you do that? Well, what can I help you in any way? What if we did this? Have you thought about, those ask the questions. I also belong to the American Fence Association and the Fence Workers Association. Those are big national, shows that they do every single year. And my husband and I never miss. We go, we meet the best of the best. And we also meet the people who are just starting, who care a lot, so now you get that same balance where we can give, where we also get, so it's like, it's good. I think networking is amazing, actually. So yeah, that's what I go back on. Yeah. So my arms are strong.
That's right. I'm kind of curious. So, going back to the beginning of this conversation, you talked about your background in marketing, completely separate industry. Obviously you're leveraging that skill and it's been really, useful for you guys. Mm-hmm. But what I'm curious about is, over the years, have you become a fence person? Do you have passion for this fence work that you guys are doing now, coming from a background that it's not like you were trained in the trades or anything like that? How do you look at all that at this point, 7 years in?
So wild, right? It's so wild. So just like marketing changes every day. I mean, if you're a Google expert today, you are not tomorrow. It's already changed. Everything's different. Same thing in fencing. Same exact thing. So the most interesting part is I'm constantly learning which is what feeds me, right? So
Yeah.
my soul is driven on learning, growing, being better, doing more, coming up with the newest, latest trends. There's new trends all the time. So yeah, I'm very passionate about fencing, which is why we're not allowed to say the F word.
That's right.
We will start talking about it because we actually care. We love it. So it's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love to hear it. Well, I think last thing I want to hit on, and then we'll start to wrap up. So there are not many women in construction in general. Is that something that you think about or that you notice in some way, or is it you don't even think about it anymore? I mean, you have to deal with a lot of, blue collar construction type, roughneck kind of guys on a daily basis. How has that been for you?
That's accurate. I'm going to tell you, when I first went in, I still, every now and then I'll have somebody they'll look at my husband, even though he hasn't said one word. I'll be the one talking, educating, and they will not even look at me. And I'm okay with that because I use it as a superpower. I just go, that's okay. I'll just be a little bit smarter and a little bit faster and a little bit more on top of things. So I can be heard a little bit more. But I'm going to be honest, like when I first started, I was a little bit worried. I mean, I'm kind of fearless, if you will. I wasn't that worried. I just didn't know what to expect. And every now and then I'll still reply to my emails and I'll sign it Daryl and not Nikki, just so somebody listens to me. It happens. But again, I use it as my superpower. I go, I understand. I get it. No problem. Whatever helps it get done. Because at the end of the day, I'm more focused on the solution than the journey. Just get us to whatever makes everybody happy and gets the job done really well at a high quality rate. And I don't care about anything else. And the industry has been amazing to me. Tony Thornton was one of the first guys. He's an older gentleman. He's been in it for a very long time. And I went out and I trained at the American Fence Association. I was out there, I'd say over 150 men in a yard at a hotel up where it was freezing cold. I don't know the state we're in now. But my husband driving around in an Audi laughing at me because he can see me putting these fences up. And the guys treated me just like anybody else. They made me pick up the pickets. They made me get the nail gun. They made me do all the things so I could learn really what it took to put an offense. And they didn't give me any leniency whatsoever. I might have been nicknamed Office a couple times, but they didn't let me get away with anything. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. The fence industry, I would say as a whole, is a very welcoming and amazing community. 100%. Everybody out here that I've ever talked to that are not even the ones that are here in my state, I'm good friends with a lot of them. We started this before COVID, and COVID really created a synergy amongst us here locally. Other companies out there, I would highly encourage you to collaborate instead of compete. You have no idea where it's going to get you in your life and in your business and on your journey. It's way better to collaborate. You're going to have the people out there that pop up that are going to be competition. They're going to come after you, and that's okay. That's a compliment. Let it go. Find the ones that want to collaborate. Always have good names. Even the people you don't like. Here's a very good tip for you. Still say nice things. Don't let it pull you down. I mean, that is a very big no-no around here. If I hear anybody badmouth anybody, I'm like, oh no, we don't put up with that because we just focus on us and who we are, So yeah, that's the thick of it.
Awesome. Well, I think you've dropped a lot of wisdom here today, from, the power of networking to just always doing the right thing, and the universe will reward you. I think it's awesome. And where can people look into your company? We'll link to your website. I think is hagefencerepair.com, right? Is there anywhere else they can find you?
We're on Facebook. We're on Google My Business. I think all the normal places. We are starting a YouTube channel because the new world says you have to have videos. So we've been doing a lot of drone footage and stuff on some of our commercial jobs recently. So that'll be coming up very soon. Like I said, we stick with the trends. We're here. We hear you. We'll do podcasts and videos. So
awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me in the Lion's Den. We'll see you soon.